Hey everyone, welcome back. So in this video, we're going to go over how to actually call the API that we got set up in the previous lesson and how to use those variables that we're calling in an actual use case. So as a quick reminder, we've got our API connection with our inputs, the city that we're looking for, and the outputs, the temperature, and then the status code of the API, just to make sure it actually worked. And then we have our conditions for our different answers. So right now we have an answer for when the city is defined, and we just say yes, we got a city, and we have a condition for when the city is not defined. So it just tells us that no city was given, and we have to give a city if we actually want the API to trigger. So what we're going to do is actually flesh out these conditions and answers a little bit more to make sure they're more applicable and that they're calling the right variables and they're covering all of the different possibilities. So remember, the way that the Mindsay platform works is it looks for one of these conditions to be true. So it starts at the first case and says, is this true? And if it's not, it goes to the next case. So if the city is defined right off the bat, great. You go with use case 0. And if the city is not defined, it goes to the second one, which is true. So you have to make sure that you have conditions for every possible combination of possibilities. So the city is defined, the city is not defined, and we also have to add one more, and we're going to do that first for when the API doesn't work. So if the API doesn't work for any technical reason, maybe the back end of the API is down, it's not even worth running the rest of this use case. So let's add that first and add a little Jinja code. So remember, 2 curly brackets. And remember, we have the status code as an output. So we're going to say status code API city temp is defined. So we want to say there is an output and that the status code API city temp does not equal, and that's exclamation point equal sign. That just means does not equal in Jinja, and you can check the Jinja documentation for a reminder of that. But we're going to say that the status code does not equal 200. Now, in API terms, status code 200 is a success. That means the API worked, and that's true in just about every single API. So we're saying in this instance, if the status code is present, if we triggered the API, but it wasn't a success, that means the API failed and we have to have a condition for that. So we're actually going to put this first, and I can just click these little arrows to change the order of the conditions. So now we have a condition for when the API just didn't work. It ran, but it wasn't successful in gathering any information. So we'll come back and fill in these answers here in a minute, but let's go on to the next use case, or the next condition, excuse me. So we have in this one that the city is defined. So we're going to leave that as the city is defined and temperature is defined. So we want to make sure that the city is defined and that we got a response from the API and we actually have a temperature. So we want to know that the city is defined and the temperature is defined. And finally, the last one we'll leave as is, that city is not defined. So now we should have all of our bases covered. We have if the API doesn't work, we have if the city is defined and the temperature is defined, so exactly what it's looking for. And in case the city is not defined, the bot will ask for a city. So now let's go in and actually add some content to this. So I'm going to save this to my draft just to make sure it's running. So for the API status fail, let's just add a comment that the bot says, sorry, I had a technical issue with the API. Please retry. So this is just telling them, I tried to make the call, but it didn't work. It wasn't a Mindsay issue. It wasn't a chatbot issue. It was an API issue. So sorry, I had a technical issue. Great, please retry. Next one, if the city is defined and the temperature is defined, we can just tell the user what the bot found. So we can say today in, and remember curly brackets for variables. So today in the city that they entered, the temperature is, and we'll say curly brackets, temperature, that's the variable. And I'm gonna add degree C That's what we'll be running in. So now we have a statement that the bot will answer when everything runs smoothly. And finally, when the city is not defined, we'll say, I can only give you the temperature for a given city. So reminding the user that they have to actually give a city in order for it to work. So let's go ahead and save this to draft and let's test it out, give it a shot. So first things first, I'll just ask, what's the weather in Paris? And you can see today in Paris, the temperature is 12.96 degrees C. So it fired that second condition, exactly what we were looking for. So that looks right. So now we'll say just temperature. In this case, we won't give it a city. And it says, yep, I can only give you the temperature for a given city. That's the condition, city is not defined. That looks right. And finally, let's test what's the weather in New York. But I'm going to not put a space in it to see if I can confuse it a little bit. So in this case, it did not recognize it as a city, so that's great. And we say, let's try again with a space. And sure enough, in New York, the temperature is 17.71 degrees Celsius. Everything is running great, and congratulations, you connected your API, you're calling variables within a use case, you've completed an advanced use case. So check out the next video if you want a quick introduction on how to add quick reply buttons and a couple advanced features for the use case themselves.